Have you ever wondered why some people seem to get rich while others work their entire lives and never seem to get ahead? What if I told you it's not about how much money you make, but how much money you keep, and how smart you are with it? In this video, we're breaking down the powerful lessons from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the book that has changed the way millions of people think about money, assets, and financial freedom. From understanding the difference between assets and liabilities, to learning why the rich don't work for money, and how to overcome fear and build wealth, we're going chapter by chapter through Robert Kiyosaki's Secrets to Financial Success. So, if you want to start thinking like the rich and take control of your financial future, stay tuned. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what steps to take to start building your wealth today. Let's start with Chapter 1 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad audiobook summary. Robert Kiyosaki opens this chapter by explaining how he grew up with two dads who had very different views on money. Poor Dad, biological father, educated, hardworking, believed in job security, saving, and getting promotions. He advised, go to school, get good grades, and get a safe job. Rich Dad, Mike's father, a businessman and entrepreneur who never finished school but built wealth by understanding money, business, and investing. He taught, the poor and middle class work for money, but the rich make money work for them. As a 9-year-old boy, Robert wanted to learn how to become rich. His poor dad told him to study hard, but Robert wasn't satisfied with that answer. So he went to his best friend Mike, whose father was wealthy. Mike's dad, Rich Dad, agreed to teach them, but not in the way they expected. School the first job, 10 cents an hour. Rich Dad gave Robert and Mike their first lesson by hiring them to work in one of his convenience stores. Their task was to stock shelves and clean, and he paid them just 10 cents an hour, far below what other kids made mowing lawns or doing chores. At first, Robert thought this was unfair. After 3 weeks of working hard for almost nothing, he felt angry and cheated. He wanted to quit, but his poor dad advised him to ask for more money. Robert went back to Rich Dad, demanding a raise or else he'd quit. This is when Rich Dad began teaching the real lesson. Light bulb lesson 1, life doesn't teach you with paychecks. Rich Dad told Robert. Most people blame others, their boss, the economy, the government, for their low pay instead of learning from the situation. He said life doesn't talk to you, it pushes you around. Some people give up, some fight back, and some learn from it. Then Rich Dad said something that stayed with Robert. Most people work for fear of not having money. That fear drives them into jobs where they trade time for money. But money isn't the real answer. If you learn nothing else, learn this: the rich don't work for money. Repeat button. The rat race of fear and desire. Rich Dad explained that there are two main emotions connected to money. 1. Fear. The fear of being poor pushes people to get jobs and work for a paycheck. 2. Desire. Greed. Once they earn, they desire nicer things, cars, clothes, bigger houses. To get these, they spend more money. This creates the rat race. They earn money, spend it, bills increase, they work harder, earn more, spend more. No matter how much they earn, they remain stuck because fear and greed control their decisions. He said, it's not money that makes you rich. It's knowledge about money. Bank the race test, trapping the rat. To prove his point, Rich Dad offered Robert and Mike raises. First, he suggested 25 cents an hour. Then, $1 an hour. Finally, $5 an hour, a huge sum at the time. Each time, Robert and Mike thought about it but realized that taking a higher wage would just keep them dependent on Rich Dad for money. They'd be trapped chasing higher pay instead of learning how money really works. Rich Dad smiled because this was the lesson: most people can be bought with higher wages, promotions, or benefits. That's how they stay trapped in jobs forever. Prohibited no more pay, the breakthrough. After testing them with low pay and then the temptation of higher pay, Rich Dad stopped paying Robert and Mike entirely. For weeks, they worked without receiving a dime. Robert grew frustrated and thought of quitting. But instead of giving up, he suddenly noticed an opportunity. While working in the store, he saw that unsold comic books were being thrown away after their covers were torn off, so they couldn't be resold. This sparked an idea. The comic book library, first business venture. Robert and Mike asked Rich Dad if they could use the discarded comics. He agreed. They collected the comics and set up a small library in Mike's basement. They charged neighborhood kids 10 cents admission to read as many comics as they wanted in a 2-hour session. The library quickly became popular, with dozens of kids paying daily. Robert and Mike earned around $9.50 a week, far more than the tiny wage they had before, and they didn't have to be present while the library ran. This was their first experience of making money work for them instead of working for money. Key lessons from Chapter 1. 1. The rich don't work for money, they focus on learning, opportunities, and building systems that create income. 2. Fear and desire control most people. Fear of poverty keeps people in jobs. Desire for luxuries keeps them spending more. 3. The rat race. Higher income doesn't equal wealth. Without financial education, people stay trapped. 4. Don't be bought by raises or promotions. The system uses higher pay to control employees. 5. Look for opportunities, not paychecks. Wealth comes from creativity and financial intelligence, not wages. 6. First business lesson. Assets generate income. Robert and Mike's comic book library was their first asset, showing them the difference between earning wages and building something that pays you. Chapter 2. Why teach financial literacy? Robert Kiyosaki starts this chapter with one of the most important lines of the entire book. Backhand index pointing right, it's not how much money you make. It's how much money you keep. He explains that many people, even those with high-paying jobs, struggle financially because they don't know the difference between assets and liabilities. Rich Dad told him that this is the foundation of financial education. Light bulb lesson 2, the real definition of wealth. Rich Dad asked Robert, "What is wealth?" Most people would answer, having a lot of money. But Rich Dad explained, true wealth is how long you can survive if you stopped working today. For example, if someone has $1,000 savings and spends $100 a day, they are only 10 days wealthy. A rich person has assets that keep generating income, so even if they stop working, money continues to flow in. Backhand index pointing right. This means wealth is measured in time, not just money. Bank the problem with the middle class. Rich Dad pointed out a common trap. As people earn more, they also spend more. They buy a bigger house, a nicer car, new gadgets, all of which require loans, mortgages, and credit cards. Their expenses rise just as fast, or faster, than their income. This is why even doctors, lawyers, or executives with high salaries often struggle financially. They confuse high income with wealth. Backhand index pointing right. Poor Dad believed buying a house was the biggest investment. Rich Dad disagreed, saying a house is usually a liability unless it generates income, like a rental property. Assets versus liabilities, the core lesson. Rich Dad drew a simple diagram for Robert and Mike. Assets, put money in your pocket. Examples, rental properties, businesses, stocks, bonds, royalties, intellectual property. Liabilities, take money out of your pocket. Examples, mortgages, car loans, credit cards, personal expenses, even your own house, if it only costs you money. Example, the house myth. Most people say, my house is my biggest asset. But if you look at monthly cash flow, mortgage money goes out. Property tax money goes out. Maintenance/repairs money goes out. No income is coming in. So in reality, the house is a liability, not an asset, unless it generates cash flow. Chart decreasing why the poor stay poor. Poor people often spend their money as soon as they get it, mostly on expenses. The middle class buys liabilities they think are assets, car, house, gadgets. The rich focus on acquiring assets first that generate money, then use that money to buy luxuries. Rich Dad said, the rich acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities they think are assets. Receipt the cash flow pattern examples. Kiyosaki gives 3 diagrams to explain this clearly. 1. Poor. Income expenses nothing left. No assets, only bills. 2. Middle class. Income liabilities, house, car loans, credit card bills, expenses rise. Think they're secure but trapped. 3. Rich. Income assets, investments, businesses, real estate. Assets generate more income, cover expenses, and create more wealth. Building construction. Rich Dad's advice to Robert and Mike. Focus on building your asset column from an early age. Never rely only on your job. A job pays you once, but an asset keeps paying you forever. Understand numbers and cash flow. Financial literacy is not about how much you earn, but about how you manage money and grow assets. Key lessons from Chapter 2. 1. Wealth is measured in time, not money. How long can you live without working? 2. The rich focus on acquiring assets. Assets are things that put money into your pocket. 3. Liabilities drain money. Don't confuse a liability, like your house, with an asset. 4. High income does not equal wealth. Many high earners stay broke because their expenses grow with their salaries. 5. Financial literacy is essential. Knowing how to read numbers and understand cash flow is more important than earning a big paycheck. Chapter 3. Mind your own business. By this point, Robert and Mike had already learned 2 major lessons from Rich Dad. Don't work for money, make money work for you. Understand the difference between assets and liabilities. Now Rich Dad moved to the 3rd principle of wealth, mind your own business. Light bulb lesson 3, stop working to make others rich. Rich Dad explained that most people spend their entire lives working to make other people rich. Employees work for the owner of the company. Their time and energy build someone else's wealth. Consumers work for banks when they take loans, credit cards, mortgages, car loans. Taxpayers work for the government, paying taxes before they even see their paycheck. Backhand index pointing right. So even if someone has a high-paying job, most of their energy is being diverted into building the asset columns of their employers, banks, and the government, while their own asset column remains empty. Bank. A job is temporary, assets are permanent. Rich Dad emphasized. There's nothing wrong with having a job, but don't confuse your job with your business. Your real business is to grow your asset column, the income-generating investments that will keep making money long after you stop working. People often say, I'm too busy with my job to think about investing. Rich Dad replied, that's why you stay poor. Backhand index pointing right, a job pays your bills. Assets build your wealth. Bar chart, what does mind your own business mean? Rich Dad gave Robert and Mike clear instructions. Always set aside money to invest in income-producing assets. Even if you have a full-time job, treat asset building as your real business. Examples of assets. Businesses that don't require your daily presence. Rental real estate that generates positive cash flow. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Intellectual property, books, patents, music royalties. Examples of liabilities. A new car depreciates and costs money. A bigger house, mortgage, taxes, maintenance. Credit card debt. House, the middle class trap, the dream house. Rich Dad gave an example using a middle class family. 1. They get a raise at work. 2. Instead of investing, they buy a bigger house. 3. The house costs more in mortgage, property tax, and utilities. 4. To furnish it, they buy new furniture, maybe a new car to match the lifestyle. 5. Their expenses keep growing, forcing them to work harder and longer. Backhand index pointing right, they think they are doing well because they look rich, but in reality, they are trapped in debt and expenses with little or no assets. Chart, increasing the rich buy luxuries last. Rich Dad had a golden rule. The rich first build assets. Then they use the income generated by those assets to buy luxuries. Poor Dad and the middle class buy luxuries first, cars, gadgets, jewelry, often using loans or credit cards. This keeps them working for money instead of making money work for them. Example. A middle-class person buys a fancy car right after getting a raise. A rich person invests that money into assets, stocks, real estate. Once those assets generate enough income, then they buy the car, without touching their salary. Key lessons from Chapter 3. 1. Mind your own business, not your employer's. Keep building your own assets, even if you have a job. 2. Assets equals wealth. Your focus should always be on acquiring income-producing assets. 3. Don't let raises and promotions fool you. If they only lead to higher expenses, you're still trapped. 4. The rich buy luxuries last. Build your asset base first, and let that income pay for your luxuries. 5. Financial independence comes from assets, not salaries. A job is temporary, but assets last forever. Chapter 4, The History of Taxes and the Power of Corporations. Up to this point, Robert and Mike had learned that 1. The rich don't work for money. 2. Financial literacy is about knowing the difference between assets and liabilities. 3. You must mind your own business by building assets. Now Rich Dad revealed another hidden advantage the rich have, how they use tax laws and corporations to protect and grow their wealth. Classical building, a short history of taxes. Rich Dad explained that taxes were not always permanent. Originally, in England and America, taxes were temporary measures during wars. They were presented as a way to take from the rich to help the poor. The majority supported taxes because they believed the rich would pay. But once governments had the power to tax, they didn't stop. Instead, the middle class became the main group paying the bulk of taxes. Backhand index pointing right. The rich found ways to legally avoid paying high taxes, while the poor and middle class had little choice. Bank Rich Dad's explanation, the tax trap. Rich Dad told Robert and Mike that the poor and middle class get punished the most. Employees get taxed first, then spend what's left. The more they earn, the more they get taxed. Inflation also eats away at their savings. Meanwhile, the rich use the rules differently. Office building. The power of corporations. Rich Dad introduced them to a powerful concept, corporations. He explained that a corporation is not a building, but a legal entity that protects and benefits its owner. The rich person's formula. 1. Earn money through a corporation. 2. Spend money on business expenses, travel, cars, meals, salaries, insurance. 3. Pay taxes last on what remains. The employee's formula. 1. Earn money from a job. 2. Pay taxes first, automatically deducted. 3. Spend what's left on bills and expenses. Backhand index pointing right. This simple difference is why employees can never catch up with the rich. Example of protection. Rich Dad explained that corporations also provide legal protection. If someone sues an employee, they can lose everything. If someone sues a corporation, the owner is protected, only the corporation's assets are at risk. This is why the rich don't own assets personally. They own them through corporations and trusts, which shield their wealth. Bar chart. Skills needed for financial success. Rich Dad told Robert and Mike that to become truly rich, they needed to master 4 main areas of knowledge. 1. Accounting, understanding numbers and cash flow. 2. Investing, knowing how to make money grow. 3. Market understanding, recognizing supply, demand, and trends. 4. The law, using corporate structures, tax advantages, and legal systems to protect wealth. Poor Dad had education in schools, but Rich Dad insisted that financial education in these 4 areas was what truly separated the rich from everyone else. Receive an example, 2 workers. Imagine 2 people, John and Mike. John, employee, earns $100,000 salary. Pays 40% in taxes, $60,000 left. Spends on mortgage, loans, bills, leaving little to save. Mike, entrepreneur with corporation, earns $100,000 through his corporation. Deducts expenses, car lease, travel, meals, insurance, salaries. Taxable income reduces to $40,000. Pays 20% tax, $8,000. Keeps $52,000, plus enjoyed all the benefits, car, trips, meals, as tax-deductible business expenses. Backhand index pointing right. Mike, rich mindset, ends up keeping more money, while John, employee mindset, pays more to the government. Key lessons from Chapter 4. 1. Taxes were meant to punish the rich but ended up punishing the middle class most. 2. Employees work for money and get taxed first. The rich work through corporations and get taxed last. 3. Corporations equals legal and financial power. They protect wealth and reduce taxes. 4. Financial education requires accounting, investing, markets, and law. 5. The rich play by different rules. Anyone can learn those rules, but most don't. Chapter 5. The rich invent money. By now, Robert and Mike had learned that the rich don't work for money. Assets build wealth, not income. You must mind your own business, focus on your own asset column. The rich use corporations and tax laws to their advantage. Now Rich Dad taught them something even more powerful, how to create money from nothing through financial intelligence. Light bulb lesson 5, opportunities are everywhere. Rich Dad explained. Backhand index pointing right, it's not the lack of money that keeps people poor. It's the lack of financial education and the lack of vision to see opportunities. Most people say, I can't afford it, or, that's too risky. The rich ask, how can I afford it, or, where's the opportunity here? This simple difference in mindset allows the rich to invent money where others see nothing. Key to 3 skills of financial intelligence. Rich Dad broke it down. Financial intelligence is made of 3 main skills. 1. Finding opportunities, seeing things others miss. 2. Raising money, knowing how to use other people's money, OPM, and resources. 3. Managing risk, turning risky situations into secure investments through knowledge and strategy. Backhand index pointing right. These skills allow the rich to create deals, businesses, and income streams that appear magical to outsiders. Bar chart example, market opportunities. Robert remembered how Rich Dad always told them to watch for changes in the economy, laws, or technology. When laws change, new opportunities appear. When markets shift, people who are prepared can profit while others panic. For example, a stock market crash may look like disaster to most, but to a financially educated person, it's a chance to buy undervalued assets at bargain prices. Rising housing markets may create real estate investment opportunities if you know how to structure deals. Backhand index pointing right. Rich Dad said, it's not the economy that makes you rich or poor. It's how you respond to the economy. Example, no money down, deals. Rich Dad often explained how the rich use creativity instead of cash. Most people say, I don't have the money to invest. Rich Dad said, that's an excuse. Use your mind, not your wallet. For example, in real estate, you might negotiate to buy property with little or no money down, using financing from banks, investors, or even the seller. If you structure the deal so the rent covers expenses and creates positive cash flow, you now own an asset without using much of your own money. Backhand index pointing right. This is how the rich invent money. Books example from Robert's life. Robert shared how, after learning from Rich Dad, he once bought a small house for $45,000 in a great location. He rented it out, and the rent covered the mortgage. A few years later, when the market rose, he sold it for $95,000. That single deal created money that seemed to appear out of thin air. Poor Dad would have called this risky, but Rich Dad called it financial intelligence at work. Exploding head. Why most people don't see opportunities. Rich Dad explained why only a few take advantage of opportunities. 1. Fear of losing money. Most people play it safe and never try. 2. Cynicism, listening to doubts. It won't work, it's too risky, kills creativity. 3. Lack of training. Without financial education, opportunities look invisible. 4. Comfort zone. People prefer security, so they stick to jobs and paychecks. Key lessons from Chapter 5. 1. The rich don't wait for opportunities, they create them. 2. Money is invented through creativity, knowledge, and strategy, not just hard work. 3. Financial intelligence equals seeing opportunities, raising money, and managing risk. 4. Excuses like, I don't have money, block success. The rich use other people's money and resources. 5. Your response to changes matters more than the economy itself. Chapter 6, Work to Learn, Don't Work for Money. By this stage, Robert and Mike had learned. The rich don't work for money. The poor and middle class confuse liabilities with assets. You must build your own asset column. The rich use corporations and taxes to protect themselves. The rich invent money by seeing and creating opportunities. Now Rich Dad gave them a new direction: focus on learning, not earning. Light Bulb Lesson 6, The Importance of Skills. Rich Dad explained. Backhand index pointing right, the most important thing you can do for your future is not to work for money, but to work to learn skills. Most people choose jobs based on salary or security. They ask, how much does it pay, instead of, what will I learn? This is why they often get stuck in one career path, never learning the diverse skills required to become financially free. Adult school example, Poor Dad versus Rich Dad's advice. Poor Dad, biological father, encouraged Robert to specialize, get a degree, and climb the career ladder. For example, if he became a teacher, he should work toward becoming a principal or superintendent. Rich Dad, mentor, said specialization is dangerous. He encouraged Robert to learn a little about many areas: sales, marketing, investing, law, management. Backhand index pointing right, the rich don't need to know everything themselves, but they need to understand enough to lead and build teams. Bar chart, generalist versus specialist. Rich Dad said, specialists, doctors, lawyers, engineers, often earn good money, but they are stuck in the E quadrant, employee or self-employed. They must keep working to earn. Generalists who understand many skills can move into the B, business owner, or I, investor, quadrants, where money works for them. Backhand index pointing right, knowledge of multiple skills makes you flexible, creative, and able to see opportunities specialists may miss. Robert's own experience, taking jobs for skills. After learning from Rich Dad, Robert didn't chase high-paying jobs. Instead, he deliberately chose jobs that taught him important skills. He worked at Xerox Corporation in sales, even though he was shy and hated rejection. He forced himself to learn how to sell because Rich Dad told him sales skills are essential for success. Later, he worked in marketing and advertising to learn how to communicate effectively with large audiences. He took different roles in different industries, not for the paycheck, but for the learning. Backhand index pointing right, each job gave him a new skill that later helped him build his businesses and investments. Brain key skills Rich Dad recommended. Rich Dad told Robert and Mike to master these core skills. 1. Sales, learn how to sell ideas, products, or yourself. 2. Marketing, understand how to attract people, build demand, and communicate. 3. Communication, writing, speaking, and influencing people are crucial. 4. Accounting/finance, know how to read numbers and cash flow. 5. Law and systems, understand how corporations, contracts, and systems work. 6. People management, leadership is about managing people smarter than you. Backhand index pointing right, Rich Dad said, if you want to be rich, you need to be a master of communication and people. Money will always follow. Bank the trap of working only for money. Rich Dad warned Robert and Mike. Many people stay in jobs they hate just because of the paycheck. They might even climb the corporate ladder, but the ladder often leans against the wrong wall. Without financial education, they depend entirely on their salary and are vulnerable if they lose their job. Backhand index pointing right. True freedom comes when you have skills to create money without relying on one employer. Key lessons from Chapter 6. 1. Don't work for money, work to learn. Paychecks come and go, but skills stay with you forever. 2. Poor dad advised specialization, rich dad advised diversification. Be a generalist, not trapped in one narrow field. 3. Robert chose jobs for skills, not pay. Sales, marketing, communication, and leadership were more valuable than money at the time. 4. Essential skills for wealth: sales, marketing, communication, accounting, law, investing, and people management. 5. The rich build businesses and systems, the poor work in them. Learn to be the one who creates and leads. Chapter 7. Overcoming obstacles. By now, Robert had learned. Don't work for money, make money work for you. Build assets, not liabilities. Focus on financial education and skills. Opportunities are everywhere if you can see them. But Rich Dad said, the world is full of educated, talented people who never become rich. The problem isn't what they know, it's what's inside of them. This chapter explains the 5 main obstacles that keep people from becoming wealthy. Light bulb lesson 7, the 5 biggest obstacles. 1. Fear of losing money. Rich Dad said the number 1 reason people don't become rich is because they fear losing. Poor Dad always told Robert to play it safe, avoid mistakes, and not take risks. Rich Dad, on the other hand, said, winners aren't afraid of losing. Losers are. Failure is part of success. Backhand index pointing right. Every successful investor or entrepreneur has lost money at some point. The difference is, the poor let fear stop them. The rich learn from the loss, adjust, and try again. Example, Robert once invested in real estate and lost money. Instead of quitting, he studied what went wrong and used that lesson to make better deals later. 2. Cynicism, listening to doubts and Chicken Littles. Cynics always say, the sky is falling. They focus on reasons why something won't work, instead of looking for ways to make it work. Rich Dad said cynics kill creativity, and without creativity, you can't see opportunities. Backhand index pointing right. People often say things like, real estate is risky. Stocks are too dangerous. Only the rich can invest. Example, when Robert was about to buy property, people warned him, what if you lose money? What if the market crashes? If he had listened, he would have missed opportunities. Laziness, disguised as being busy. Rich Dad said many people aren't truly lazy, but they hide from opportunities by keeping themselves busy. Poor Dad worked very hard, but he was busy working for money, not for wealth. Rich Dad called this busyness laziness, because people are too busy to see what's important. Backhand index pointing right. The cure? A little greed. Rich Dad said, I want more money. I want more freedom. Healthy desire pushes you to act instead of hiding behind excuses. 4. Bad habits, especially paying yourself last. Poor Dad's habit, pay bills and expenses first, then save if anything is left. Usually, nothing was left. Rich Dad's habit, pay yourself first, invest in assets, then handle expenses. Backhand index pointing right. This forced him to think smarter, create new income streams, push himself to grow. Example, if Robert invested first and then had bills left over, he had to find ways to earn more money. This habit built discipline and wealth. 5. Arrogance, thinking you already know. Rich Dad warned, arrogance is deadly because it blocks learning. Many people don't know about investing or money, but instead of learning, they say, that's not important, or, I already know enough. Arrogance equals ignorance plus ego. Backhand index pointing right the cure. Stay humble and keep learning. Surround yourself with experts. Example, Rich Dad said he always listened to his bankers, accountants, and lawyers, even if he knew more about business, because their knowledge could save him from mistakes. Brain Rich Dad's big point. Backhand index pointing right. Everyone has obstacles. Even the rich feel fear, doubt, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. The difference is how you deal with them. Poor Dad avoided obstacles. Rich Dad said, confront them, learn from them, and grow richer in the process. Key lessons from Chapter 7. 1. Fear of losing money keeps most people poor. Accept that losses are part of the journey. 2. Cynicism kills creativity. Don't let doubts or negative voices stop you. 3. Laziness is often disguised as being busy. Use healthy desire to push forward. 4. Bad habits keep you stuck. Always pay yourself first. 5. Arrogance is deadly. Stay humble, keep learning, and surround yourself with smart advisors. 6. Obstacles are not roadblocks, they're stepping stones. The rich overcome them, while others let them win. Chapter 8, Getting Started. By this point, Robert and Mike had learned. The rich don't work for money. Financial literacy and building assets are essential. You must mind your own business. Corporations and tax strategies protect wealth. The rich invent money through opportunities. Working to learn skills is more important than working for money. Overcoming fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance is critical. Now Rich Dad showed them how to take all this knowledge and actually start building wealth. Light bulb lesson 8, the most important step is deciding. Rich Dad began with a simple but profound truth. Backhand index pointing right, the first step is deciding to be rich. Most people think about wealth, but never make a firm decision. A clear decision creates focus and action. Without a decision, knowledge and skills are wasted. Example. Robert admitted he had always wanted to be rich, but after Rich Dad's lessons, he committed to taking action. That commitment changed how he approached jobs, investments, and learning. Bank Step 1, Take Action. Rich Dad emphasized. Knowledge alone is useless without action. Small steps are better than waiting for the perfect opportunity. Example. Robert bought his first rental property with only $1,000 down. It wasn't perfect, but it got him started. He learned more from the mistakes he made than from any classroom lesson. Backhand index pointing right action converts ideas into experience, which eventually builds wealth. Dollar banknote Step 2, Choose daily to invest in assets. Rich Dad taught Robert. Every day, think, how can I increase my asset column today? Don't just focus on income, focus on money that generates more money. Example. Robert and Mike started buying small investments like stocks and real estate with whatever money they could save. Even small amounts grow over time if invested wisely. Step 3, Learn from experts. Rich Dad said. Surround yourself with people smarter than you in areas you want to grow. Seek mentors, not critics. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and never assume you know it all. Example. Robert learned real estate from local investors and banks, rather than trying to figure everything out alone. Mentors helped him avoid costly mistakes. Bar chart step 4, pay yourself first. Rich Dad repeated his classic rule, pay yourself first. Set aside money for investments before paying bills or spending on luxuries. Example. Instead of buying a car after a raise, Robert would invest a portion of the raise. Over time, these small investments created a growing income stream. Rocket step 5, start small, learn fast. Rich Dad advised. Don't wait until you have millions to start. Start with what you have, learn fast, and scale. Example. Robert and Mike began with small ventures, comic book libraries, small rental properties, and small investments in stocks. Each small success and failure taught lessons that compounded into bigger opportunities later. Light bulb step 6, use your imagination. Rich Dad emphasized creativity. Wealth is not only about money, it's about seeing opportunities where others see obstacles. Imagination helps you invent deals, solve problems, and leverage resources in new ways. Example. Instead of giving up when a property seemed too expensive, Robert negotiated creative financing with banks and sellers. By thinking differently, he acquired assets without large upfront capital. Key lessons from Chapter 8. 1. Decide to be rich. Clear intent drives action. 2. Take action immediately. Knowledge without action is wasted. 3. Invest in assets every day. Focus on building your asset column. 4. Learn from experts and mentors. Avoid mistakes and accelerate growth. 5. Pay yourself first. Make investing a priority. 6. Start small, scale fast. Every small step is a building block. 7. Use imagination to invent opportunities. Creativity is a key asset of the rich. Chapter 9, Still Want More? Here are some to-dos. By now, Robert and Mike had learned. The rich don't work for money. Financial literacy is essential. Mind your own business and focus on assets. Corporations and tax strategies help protect wealth. The rich invent money. Work to learn, don't work for money. Overcome obstacles like fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. Get started by taking action, investing, and using imagination. Chapter 9 takes all these lessons and turns them into specific to-dos for readers to begin their financial journey. Light bulb lesson 9, take control of your financial education. Rich Dad explained. Most people rely on schools to teach them about money, but schools don't teach financial literacy. If you want to be rich, take personal responsibility for learning about money. Example. Robert studied accounting, investing, and marketing on his own. He read books, attended seminars, and asked mentors questions, rather than waiting for formal schooling. Rich Dad's key advice, your financial education is your responsibility. No one else will teach you what you really need to know. Bank to-do number 1, pay yourself first. Make it a habit to invest a portion of every paycheck before paying bills or expenses. Even if it's a small amount, it teaches discipline and starts your asset column. Example. Robert and Mike began setting aside small sums weekly into investments, like stocks or small rental properties. Over time, these small investments compounded into meaningful income. To-do number 2, buy assets. Focus on buying things that put money in your pocket, not things that take money out. Avoid liabilities disguised as assets, like expensive cars or houses that drain your cash flow. Example. Instead of buying a luxury car after a raise, Robert invested in a small property that generated positive cash flow. Brain to-do number 3, learn to see opportunities. Watch for changes in the economy, laws, markets, and industries. Don't wait for opportunities, they often require imagination and initiative. Example. Robert saw undervalued properties and negotiated creative deals using other people's money, banks, investors, sellers. He also spotted opportunities in new business trends and investments before others noticed them. Bar chart to-do number 4, take risks wisely. Don't be reckless, but don't let fear stop you. Rich Dad advised, start small, learn from mistakes, scale up. Understanding risk and reward is more important than avoiding all risk. Example. Robert made small real estate deals that had risks, but each loss taught him lessons he applied to future, bigger deals. Building construction to-do number 5, surround yourself with experts. Build a team, accountants, lawyers, bankers, and mentors. You don't need to know everything, but you need to know who does. Example. Robert consulted with real estate experts before buying property. He learned from accountants about tax benefits and corporations. Light bulb to-do number 6, work to learn. Take jobs or roles that teach important skills rather than focusing solely on pay. Skills like sales, marketing, communication, accounting, and leadership are more valuable than a paycheck alone. Example. Robert took sales jobs, marketing positions, and even entrepreneurial roles for the lessons they offered, not the salary. Rich Dad's ultimate advice. 1. Make a decision to be rich and commit to it. 2. Pay yourself first and invest in assets. 3. Continuously educate yourself financially. 4. Take action immediately, even small steps matter. 5. Learn from failures and mistakes. 6. Overcome fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. 7. Surround yourself with smart people. 8. Use imagination to create opportunities. Rich Dad concluded that financial freedom is not a dream, it's a system you learn, practice, and apply. Pushpin key takeaways from Chapter 9. Action is everything. Knowledge without action leads to nothing. Small steps compound over time. Even tiny investments grow if done consistently. Financial education never stops. The world changes, and so do opportunities. Obstacles are part of the journey. Overcome them, and you will grow wealthier. Your wealth is your responsibility. Don't rely on employers, schools, or the government to make you rich. And that's a complete breakdown of the most important lessons from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Remember, it's not about how much money you earn, it's about how much you keep, how smart you are with it, and how well you grow your assets. Start small, take action, learn every day, and most importantly, overcome your fears and doubts. Your financial freedom begins with the choices you make today. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tips on building wealth and thinking like the rich. Comment below which lesson from Rich Dad, Poor Dad inspired you the most, and let's start a conversation about taking control of your financial future. Remember, the best time to start was yesterday. The next best time is now. Please like, share, and subscribe our YouTube channel.